Discover the incredible transformation. 100 doctors failed, but a cleaning lady's black genius dares to defy the medical establishment. Gloria Thompson's hands were raw from scrubbing floors, the smell of bleach mingling with the familiar scent of sweat from the gym she cleaned. As her two daughters, Kayla and Mia, rushed out the door, Gloria felt a wave of both pride and fear wash over her. They were bright, ambitious girls, each carrying the weight of her dreams on their shoulders. Yet, as she watched them disappear down the street, the echo of her grandmother's lessons rumbled in her mind. Hard work and respect could earn a living, but they wouldn't break the chains of an unkind fate. A cleaning lady, just a label, one she wore like heavy shackles. That morning, Gloria felt the usual pangs of self-doubt creeping in as she wiped down locker rooms. Each scrub of the tile felt like an internal struggle, an unanswered question echoing louder in her mind. Was this all she was meant to be? Just the trappings of menial labor? The thought gnawed at her. If she didn't find her way, what future lay ahead for her daughters? A dark shadow draped over her thoughts as she recalled the countless times well-meaning but condescending voices had brushed her off, convinced that a woman like her could never rise above such humble beginnings. Then came the news that shattered everything. Kayla became ill, her vibrant spirit fading as doctors struggled to find answers. Gloria held her daughter's hand, and her own heart fractured at the sight of her child's once bright eyes, now dulled and distant. Every hour spent in the sterile whiteness of the hospital felt heavier, as if the walls themselves conspired against her, pressing down with the weight of uncertainty. A series of confused faces with lab coats and sterile notepads surrounded her, chipping away at her already fragile hope. They all spoke in terms she struggled to understand, lab results laid bare like an assignment she couldn't complete. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. As she pored over medical books at night, her grandmother's stories of natural remedies resurfaced, igniting a spark of determination. Gloria felt her internal conflict intensifying as she wrestled with the whispers of doubt, the ever-present nagging sensation that who she was, a cleaning lady without a fancy education, rendered her efforts futile. But it gave her a sense of agency she hadn't felt in years. Every time a new medical professional dismissed her, telling her to simply follow their prescribed path, the fire in her belly grew, mingling with simmering indignation. "You don't know me," she thought furiously, "and I won't let you snuff out my daughter's spirit." That resolve fueled her research, yet society seemed ready to judge her. The once calming halls of the hospital had transformed into a battleground of prejudice. Just as she developed a potential remedy based on the old wisdom her grandmother had passed down, the threat of dismissal loomed larger. Gloria's heart raced as she sat in front of her laptop, a new wave of fear creeping in. What if it really was all in vain? Would the glare of the public eye be more damaging than anything these doctors could do? She stood on the precipice of her revelations, the knowledge and hope intertwining like vines. As powerful medical associations sniffed at her findings, Gloria feared judgment and ridicule were closer than she thought, threatening to extinguish the light of her family's future before they could even grasp it. Would her fight to save Kayla be worth the risk if it meant stepping into the blinding glare of scorn? She had no answers, only a fire flickering in the shadows, all but waiting for the right moment to ignite. A confrontation that might either illuminate a path toward redemption or cast her deeper into the abyss of despair. Gloria sat in the dim light of her discluttered living room, the weight of the medical texts open on her lap. Shadows stretched across the walls, echoing her internal struggle. Thoughts danced like restless spirits, taunting her with self-doubt. Was she truly capable of challenging an entire medical institution? Or was this fight destined to end in failure like so many before? With each glance at Kayla lying frail and silent on the couch, the fire inside her ignited with renewed vigor. Gloria recalled the remedies her grandmother had conjured, the healing balms and herbal teas that once brought her family comfort. It was time to harness that legacy, to bring forth a knowledge that seemed hidden beneath the layers of doubt and fear. Taking a deep breath, she started to jot down her findings from her late-night research sessions. The scientific jargon still felt alien, yet her grandmother's teachings were alive in her memory. She built a bridge between the past and the present, fusing tradition and modern knowledge. It was exhilarating, a revelation that opened new doors of understanding, illuminating the path forged by the women before her. She began reaching out to alternative health practitioners, daring to gather insights and support. Word spread about the cleaning lady's surprising inquiries, leading her to encounter whispers of skepticism and intrigue. At first, the responses mirrored the condescension that had long haunted her. They questioned her qualifications, her audacity to challenge the accepted norms. But with each exchange, Gloria reclaimed slivers of her identity. She was no longer just a cleaning lady. She was a vessel of possibility, the custodian of wisdom passed down through generations. The first time she met with a small group of like-minded individuals in an old library, Gloria was apprehensive. As she entered the meeting room, she felt the familiar pulse of fear constricting around her heart. But upon hearing their discussions, her confidence bloomed. Their dialogue wasn't adorned with complex medical theories. Instead, it revolved around holistic practices and patient stories, narratives that echoed her own. It was exhilarating to be surrounded by individuals who understood that healing wasn't merely a formula of prescriptions, but an experience intertwined with empathy and knowledge. Gloria found herself speaking up more. Her hands trembled slightly as she shared her grandmother's remedies, the stories weighed down by disbelief, transformed into stories of resilience and healing. Receiving nods and murmurs of agreement from the group ignited a fire within her. She realized she possessed a unique perspective that had long been dismissed. But shadows loomed on the horizon. The medical establishment's response to her burgeoning presence was palpable. The disdainful comments whispered in hushed tones were sharper than any weapon. How could a cleaning lady expect to contribute anything of worth? Their incredulous laughter echoed in her mind. Each minor victory was countered by this simmering hostility. As Gloria pressed on, real progress began to emerge. The remedies she formulated, based on years of family lore and her newfound knowledge, showed tangible results in small trials among those willing to trust her. Hope flickered as glimmers of positivity began to ripple through the community, yet she remained acutely aware that her journey, still in its infancy, was fraught with peril. Would skepticism from the medical establishment lead to an attempt to suppress her findings? Or could the shadow of disbelief serve as fuel to her growing determination? As she prepared to present her data at an upcoming health symposium, Gloria felt the creeping sensation of a storm brewing. It was no longer just about her daughter's healing. It was about disrupting an established order that had silenced voices like hers for too long. The moment had crystallized in her mind. It was time to face those who doubted her. Taking one last glance at Kayla, whose vibrant spirit was still fighting to emerge, Gloria whispered to herself, "I will not be silenced." The upcoming confrontation loomed large, and as Gloria stepped forward, a revelation flickered into focus. This was not merely about her daughter's healing. It was about disrupting an established order that had silenced voices like hers for too long. As she closed her notebook, fire igniting in her eyes, she silently vowed to march into that symposium ready to confront the naysayers. No longer a mere cleaning lady, but a force determined to challenge the status quo. Would she emerge as a beacon of change in a world designed to keep her concealed in the shadows? In the days leading up to the symposium, Gloria threw herself into preparation with feverish determination. Every morning began at dawn, her hands working deftly through meticulous notes and sketches that melded scientific discovery with ancestral wisdom. The bright light filtering through her kitchen window seemed to illuminate not only her physical space, but also the path she was carving for herself. Each ingredient, each method felt like a revelation, like unearthing hidden treasures buried under years of neglect and ridicule. She practiced her presentation in front of the mirror, rehearsing the rhythm and cadence of her voice. It would be her declaration, a proclamation of who she was and what she represented. No longer would she retreat into the shadows of insecurity or the constraint of societal expectations. "My name is Gloria," she would begin, grounding herself in the truth of her identity. "I am not just a cleaning lady. I am a healer, a guardian of knowledge." The skepticism she faced haunted her dreams. Nightmares of leading the presentation only to be met with condescending laughter felt almost tangible. Yet every time she awoke, the flicker of Kayla's fragile but fierce spirit perched silently in the corner of her mind thwarted her fear, igniting her resolve. Kayla was more than a daughter. She was a testament to Gloria's purpose, a living, breathing reason to disrupt the status quo. As the day of the symposium dawned, dread mingled with exhilaration. Attendees jostled about the spacious hall, their conversations a symphony of complexity and skepticism. Gloria, feeling minuscule among the endless flow of white coats and medical badges, clenched her notes to steady herself. The prominent figures she recognized had previously dismissed her. The very individuals who had once pooled the depths of their scorn were now lingering in the hall, ready to dissect her presentation. The moment approached, and with trembling hands she gathered her materials and took a deep breath. Stepping onto the stage, camera flashes ignited like fleeting stars, intensifying the weight pressing on her shoulders. She stood before a sea of hostile and intrigued faces, fear and exhilaration swirling into a chaotic mix within her. She focused on one thing: Kayla. "My daughter is suffering," she began, her voice ringing with clarity, "and while the medical establishment is mired in its ways, I have seen healing in old traditions. The cynicism surrounding holistic practices obscure their potential." As she shared her grandmother's wisdom intertwined with her findings, waves of skepticism ebbed, replaced by a begrudging curiosity. Yet the weight of disapproval still lingered. After her presentation, a familiar figure emerged from the crowd. Dr. Hargrove, the chief of the institution that had previously dismissed her inquiries. His smile, thin and calculated, suggested a predator circling. "Interesting, Gloria," he replied coolly, "but this is merely anecdotal evidence, driven by sentiment rather than evidence." The accusation stung, igniting a firestorm of doubt. She questioned if she was truly prepared for this confrontation. A headline, "Cleaning Lady Takes on Medical Giants," would surely play into the narrative of her being outmatched. Yet she held on to her truth. "Perhaps," Gloria replied, her voice steadying, "but if anecdote can spark truth and result in healing, isn't it worth exploring?" The crowd murmured, tension palpable in the air. Did she dare push further? The piercing gaze of Dr. Hargrove loomed as he smirked. Interesting thought, but one must wonder, what would happen if your experiments caused harm? The room contracted, silence throbbing around her.
Gloria's heart raced as she realized this was the very moment of truth she had prepared for. She could either retreat into the silence or stand firm, declaring that every journey begins with unsteady steps. The primal instinct to escape clawed at her, yet the determination for her daughter's sake kept her anchored. "Then let's take that risk together," she challenged, her brave voice overcoming the whispers of doubt. Her resolve solidified. As eyes turned toward her, expecting a retreat, she embraced the next question. The ripple of responses shifted, intriguing but strained. She had ignited something, and now she stood at the precipice of change. But was she ready to delve deeper into the fray? As the confrontation hovered, the weight of the tides turned. What lay ahead through the dark waters of skeptical inquiry? The moment crackled with possibility, and Gloria was unaware of the storm brewing within her as she leaned forward. Would she face retribution, or would she find undeniable proof within her journey? The answers beckoned, yes, but at what cost? Gloria could feel the weight of silence pressing down on her, each second stretching into infinity. She forced her eyes away from Dr. Hargrove, scanning the audience and absorbing the mixed reactions: curiosity, skepticism, and something else, a budding respect. Could it be? As she allowed herself to breathe, the echo of her own heartbeat filled the void, steady and rhythmic. Within that pulse, she discerned a growing strength. This was not merely about the evidence she presented. It was about her existence and the journey that had deemed her worthy of being there. She refused to let doubt creep in, not now when she had gathered so much courage. "What if anecdote can guide us toward discovery?" she pressed, her tone emboldened.
The confidence that had taken root within her surged forward, grounding her in the knowledge that her experiences, however unconventional, were valid. What if my grandmother's remedies hold truths the clinical world has overlooked? The audience shifted in their seats, some exchanging glances, others leaning in closer as if drawn by an invisible thread. Dr. Hargrove smirked, but she sensed a flicker of uncertainty behind his facade. "You advocate for a blend of science and tradition. Fine, but anecdotal evidence is slippery," he countered. "How do you plan to substantiate these claims in a meaningful way?" The challenge hung heavy in the air, and Gloria knew she needed more than just words. This was her moment, a crucible that would forge her into something greater. "The path to healing begins by understanding the whole person, not just the symptoms," she replied, her voice steady and resonant. "I am working on a study. I intend to collect data on the effects of traditional practices alongside conventional medications. This is not merely about winning a debate. It is about practical application for those who are often labeled as lost causes." The crowd's murmurs pulsed like a heartbeat, mixed with intrigue and reluctant admiration. Gloria felt their energy shift. She could almost reach out and touch it. In that instant, a possibility unfurled in her mind, a delicate thread of understanding binding past, present, and future. "I refuse to let my background define my path, Dr. Hargrove," she asserted, more fervently now. "The limitations you see are only born of presumptions, not truths. I've spent my life caring for my daughter and countless others. Each person carries their narrative. Why not learn from it?" The question landed in the room, unexpected and yet profound. The badge-studded crowd now appeared a little less imposing, their skepticism yielding to something more complex. Challenging powerful figures was intimidating, but Gloria felt her perspective shift, aligning with an innate sense of purpose that had simmered under the surface for years. She was not merely a cleaning lady with an unusual theory. She was a learner, a healer, an advocate of the untold stories waiting to be acknowledged.
Dr. Hargrove's expression hardened as he processed Gloria's words. For the first time, the scales shifted, his confidence challenged by her conviction. "Rest assured, I will be watching your next moves closely, Gloria," he retorted evenly, but she detected a crack in his armor. "I welcome it," she responded, adrenaline coursing through her veins. As she stepped down from the stage, a soft rush of exhilaration washed over her. She had confronted a giant and emerged, not unscathed, but undeniably stronger. The clamor of the gray-suited professionals seemed to blur behind her as she stepped into a hallway. Here, the scent of lingering fears mingled with the whir of ideas and possibilities.
Yet uncertainty whispered within her. Was this mere bravado or a pivotal moment of transformation? She could feel the tide shifting around her, but was she truly prepared for the repercussions of her defiance? Soon she would need to navigate the labyrinth of academia, gather unwilling allies, and contend with powerful adversaries. The true battle was just beginning. One thought coiled around her. How far would she go to bring her discoveries to light, and more importantly, to help Kayla? With each step forward, she questioned her path, her readiness, and the deeper implications of what lay ahead. As she mulled it over, a voice called from behind, one of the symposium attendees, a fellow researcher with curious eyes. "Gloria, can we discuss this further?" The fire reignited within her. An opportunity had presented itself, a chance to build connections and perhaps bridge it between two worlds. With a steadying breath, she turned. "Yes, let's talk." But as she walked toward what could be a collaboration, shadowed doubts whispered in her ear. Had she truly begun the journey, or merely ignited a spark that would soon fade in the whirlwind of challenges ahead? Gloria felt a pulse of determination as she turned to face the researcher who had called out to her. The woman introduced herself as Dr. Lane, a mid-level academic whose work intersected with alternative medicine. As they settled into a quiet corner of the bustling hallway, Gloria marveled at how quickly this moment had materialized, a potential ally at a time she desperately needed one. "So, you really believe there's something to your grandmother's remedies?" Dr. Lane asked, her brow arched but intrigued. The question demanded a thorough response, and Gloria took a moment to compose her thoughts. "Absolutely," Gloria replied. "My experience with patients has shown me that healing is more than just medical prescriptions. It's about understanding the individual, where they come from, their stories, and yes, the traditions they cling to for comfort and hope. Those remedies shaped my understanding of health long before I ever stepped into a clinic." Dr. Lane nodded, her expression shifting to one of contemplation. "You grasp the narrative aspect well. I've seen similar approaches work, but they often get drowned out by rigorous data. Most traditional institutions dismiss them." "That's exactly what I aim to change," Gloria declared with an intensity that surprised even herself. "I want to gather tangible data to support these practices, to prove they offer value alongside the clinical methods that dominate the field." The words flowed from her with a conviction that she had rarely felt, a resonance pulling her deeper into her aim. "Where do you envision starting?" Dr. Lane probed, her pen poised over a notepad. Gloria's mind raced as patterns began to form. "I'll conduct qualitative interviews and follow them with quantitative studies. I want to establish a framework where we can measure the impact of these traditional practices before, during, and after treatment," she outlined, an unstoppable fervor emerging in her tone. "We must show how people feel, what they believe, alongside the numbers. We need to present a fuller picture, weaving narratives with data." Dr. Lane scribbled notes, visibly impressed. "That's ambitious." "Ambition is crucial if I want to stand against established norms," Gloria shot back, though her bravado trembled beneath the weight of her burgeoning self-doubt. Would her ambition be enough to keep her steady in the storm that was bound to come?
Do you have access to a network or funding? Dr. Lane asked, looking up from her notes. Gloria hesitated. This was where the gravity of her position hit her. I have my savings, and that's it. But I'm hoping to connect with people who share this vision. If we find the right partners, doctors, researchers, funders, I truly believe we can pioneer something meaningful. Finding partners will be challenging, Dr. Lane cautioned. You'll face scrutiny, especially from those who are threatened by the blending of traditional and scientific. The details of her passage flashed before Gloria's eyes, a torrent of doubt countered by her glimmers of conviction. Then we face it together, she responded. If I've learned anything, it's that no one should go through this alone. Dr. Lane raised her eyebrows. Are you suggesting a collaborative study? Gloria's heart raced. The idea had sparked. Absolutely. We could bring in diverse voices, researchers with credibility and breadth. Together, we could invalidate the assumptions surrounding anecdotal evidence. Well, count me in, Dr. Lane replied, her smile growing as the flicker of ambition ignited. I know a few colleagues who might be interested as well. The promise of collaboration settled around Gloria like a warm embrace. Yes, this could be more than just a personal journey. She could build a coalition of change. But even as she engaged in dialogue about methodology and potential participants, a chilling thought nagged of her. What if this collaboration fell through? What if the academic world rejected her right off the bat? Gloria, are you all right? Dr. Lane's voice pierced through her spiraling thoughts. Just strategizing, she managed to say, her voice steadying. I want this to work. There's so much at stake. As they exchanged contact information and outlined her next steps, a fierce resolve settled deep within her. The path ahead promised to be mired in challenges and emotional exhaustion, rife with potential adversaries, but armed with newfound determination, Gloria felt ready to take her first monumental step. Somewhere in the back of her mind, a nagging question remained. Could she sustain this momentum, or would her fragile ambitions be crushed under the complexity of academic politics? Let's connect again in a week, Dr. Lane suggested as they parted ways. But even as Gloria nodded, she felt the tremors of uncertainty resonating within her. The paradox was stark. She was on the verge of a breakthrough, yet proximity to the academic realm felt increasingly perilous. Would the structure she sought to infiltrate ultimately stifle her voice? What would it take to lay the groundwork for the collaboration she envisioned? Gloria took a deep breath as she stepped back into the thrumming environment, ready to navigate the challenges of a world she had only glimpsed before. What had begun as a flicker of an idea now loomed with possibility. But as she walked deeper into the hall, a sinking realization crept in. The real battle was yet to begin. Would she find the inner strength to stand firm when the inevitable opposition emerged, testing the very values she sought to champion? Gloria's mind whirled as she left Dr. Lane, a mix of exhilaration and trepidation coursing through her veins. The prospect of a collaborative study filled her with hope, yet the weight of impending scrutiny pressed down like a heavy cloak. Each step felt both exhilarating and daunting, this path she chose crackling with the electric shock of uncertainty. She hadn't just committed to a research study, she had pledged herself to a battleground where her beliefs would be fiercely tested. Returning home, the familiar walls felt less inviting than they usually did. Gloria tossed her bag aside, her heart racing from the day's revelations. She sank into the worn-out couch, closed her eyes, and took a deep breath, attempting to still her racing thoughts. What if the academic community dismissed her work? Or worse, what if her grandmother's remedies, the treasured legacies of her family, were ridiculed in the very spaces she sought validation? Restlessness guided her to the small desk in the corner where she had kept her grandmother's journal, a collection of recipes and healing wisdom filled with the love and hope from generations past. It was time to immerse herself in its contents. As she flipped through the brittle pages, the familiar scent of aged paper triggered memories, laughter, stories, and the indomitable spirit of her grandmother. Each entry detailed remedies and tales of patients helped, transcending mere words. They were testaments to faith and resilience.
The more she read, the more emboldened she felt. Perhaps she could conduct initial interviews with family and friends who had been impacted by these home remedies. Gloria reached for her laptop, fingers dancing over the keyboard as she drafted a proposal. No longer just a passive dreamer, she was transforming her vision into tangible steps, a sense of urgency swelling within her. In her fervor, Gloria realized the urgency of her first task. She was not just representing herself. Her grandmother's legacy demanded a voice. Each story, each testimonial she gathered could form an invaluable part of her data, a bridge connecting qualitative and quantitative evidence. This was her chance to uncover truths that institutional science had overlooked. The following week unfolded quickly. Gloria carved time out of her busy schedule to sit with those willing to share their experiences. Each conversation grounded her. Patients described not just physical relief, but profound emotional changes. The healing path her grandmother provided transcended traditional treatment, weaving into the very fabric of their lives. These narratives fueled her with hope, further cementing her commitment to the study. Yet the specter of doubt loomed. In every conversation, a voice in her head would whisper, "What if you're just clinging to nostalgia? And what proof do you truly have?" This skepticism was relentless, gnawing at her resolve. Determined to push back against these doubts, she spent late nights drafting an outline for her research. What if she presented her findings with the stories, woven with statistical evidence? This combination could silence the critics and clarify the disconnect between traditional medicine and alternative practices. Perhaps by framing it as a legitimate comparative study, she could earn the respect she needed. In those hours, hidden capabilities began to surface. Her organizational skills sharpened, her ability to articulate ideas improved, and a web of connections began flaring into life. She reached out to Dr. Lane's colleagues, slowly building a network of interest around her vision. However, with each small triumph came the revelation of a bigger obstacle looming on the horizon. During a particularly ambitious email exchange with a potential supporter, she was abruptly reminded of the political landscape that awaited her in the realm of academic research. Skepticism and opposition could turn allies into adversaries in a heartbeat. As Gloria prepared for the next meeting with Dr. Lane, a knot tightened in her stomach. Her quest for validation meant confronting not just academia's most powerful voices, but also her own deepest fears. Was she truly capable of championing this cause she so passionately believed in, or would she falter when challenged? With a newfound sense of urgency sparking within her, Gloria understood one truth. Preparation was vital, and she was running out of time. The moment of truth was approaching. Would she step up and prove her convictions when the academic scrutiny intensified? The stakes rose sharply as Gloria focused ahead. She could see the sharp edges of conflict coming into focus. Would she have the strength to face the inevitable opposition, or would her fight for validation succumb to the complexities she was about to encounter? As Gloria steeled herself for her meeting with Dr. Lane, she felt the weight of anticipation settle like a fog in her mind. The very air in the small coffee shop felt charged. It was there that she had agreed to present her preliminary findings and outline her proposed research methodology. 1,000 scenarios swirled within her, each one more nerve-wracking than the last. Would Dr. Lane be supportive, or would his critical eye expose gaps in her argument she hadn't anticipated? With a deep breath, she reminded herself of the testimonials she had gathered. Each story she had documented was not merely anecdotal. They were representations of personal triumph, a juxtaposition to rigidity in clinical practice. These were voices demanding to be heard, and she, the conduit of those stories, had to approach this meeting with conviction. When Dr. Lane arrived, he greeted her warmly, yet his demeanor carried an air of professionalism that set her heart racing.
As they settled into their seats, she felt an internal battle unfurl. Her nerves quickened, but simultaneously they propelled her to articulate her research with clarity and passion. Gloria began with her grandmother's legacy, detailing how it had spurred her journey. She explained the proposed framework of combining quantitative data with personal narratives, touching on the gaps in current research that her findings could fill. As she spoke, she observed Dr. Lane's expressions change, occasionally nodding in thoughtful contemplation. Yet, right in the ebb and flow of her discourse, a moment came when she was posed a question that knocked the wind from her sails. What empirical evidence can you provide to support the efficacy of these remedies? How do we know this isn't just a placebo effect? The question hung in the air like a stubborn mist, and Gloria's initial response was a panic-stricken silence. But the sound of her grandmother's laughter echoed in her mind, igniting a flame of defiance within her. Instead of retreating into uncertainty, she recalled a recent conversation with a patient whose life had changed because of her grandmother's approach. The emotional impact cannot be quantified the same way we measure physical symptoms, but it is real, she found herself stating firmly. If we only chase that which fits neatly into established frameworks, we ignore the complexity of human experience, which is not just about what we see, but how we feel. Dr. Lane's brow furrowed as he leaned back in his chair, taking in her impassioned response. She sensed both criticism and curiosity merging in his regard. He was evaluating her, probing more than just her analysis, but the very heart behind it. Passion is crucial, Gloria, but you must also frame it within a scientific context to gain credibility in our field, he replied, his voice steady but tempered with encouragement. How do you plan to approach that, given your current framework? This was the moment Gloria both feared and desired, a direct confrontation with the realities of academia.
In that instant, her confidence wavered yet transformed, galvanizing her newfound resolve. She answered him with academic precision, delineating strategies ranging from surveys to controlled groups, and detailed how anecdotal evidence could serve as a stepping stone to broader studies. As their conversation evolved, Gloria began to sense sparks of collaboration in the air. Dr. Lane offered insights, weaving suggestions into her framework, while encouraging her to pursue an approach that bridged her journey from heart to theory. With every interaction, Gloria felt her perspectives broaden. She was not merely a vessel for stories, she was becoming a researcher. Yet, just as an exhilarating wind filled her sails, doubts surged back. What if the academic establishment would still see her work as frivolous, judged for emotions instead of results? As the meeting concluded, Gloria found herself invigorated yet aware of the balancing act required to maintain both integrity and innovation. This path she was navigating needed fortitude, patience, and a relentless willingness to confront her own fears as well as doubt from peers. Emerging from the coffee shop, she gazed at the sky and felt a stirring in her chest, a hint of purpose mixed with anxiety. The next step loomed larger, with the clock ticking down towards her first official presentation. She had only begun to scratch the surface of what this journey would entail, and realized confronting institutional norms was merely the beginning. Inwardly vowing to fortify her resolve, she caught a glimpse of her own reflection in a nearby shop window, an image of a woman embracing her potential while braving the eye of skepticism. The moment of truth was indeed upon her. Would she rise to the challenge or dissolve into obscurity under the harsh scrutiny of academia? Determination edged into her heart as she walked forward, and yet, in the depths of her mind, the nagging question remained. What if the next face she would confront in this battle was one who held the key to her research's acceptance or rejection? The days before her presentation blurred into a haze of sleepless nights and incessant outlines. Gloria buried herself in research articles, dissecting studies that danced tantalizingly close to her own approach. With each word, the familiar confidence of purpose flickered and dimmed, a constant battle against the hungry tide of self-doubt.
She had taken a leap of faith, but did she truly believe in the validity of her work, or was she merely a fleeting whisper in a cacophony of established thought? On the eve of her presentation, she stood in front of her mirror, practicing her speech like an actor rehearsing for the performance of a lifetime. The reflection staring back was not only that of a researcher, but the embodiment of her grandmother's spirit intertwined with her own ambitions.
Each word felt charged, not just with data, but with an urgency that spilled over from personal experience into the realm of academia. Yet every time she attempted to climb the staircase of eloquence, the weight of doubt pushed her back down. "Why would they listen to me?" she muttered to herself, frustration mounting as she paced her small apartment. "Who am I to challenge their conventions?" Her phone buzzed, breaking the stream of alarming thoughts. A message from Dr. Lane. "Looking forward to your presentation tomorrow. Keep in mind, confidence is key." As she read his words, a flicker of something other than doubt wrapped around her heart. Was it courage or determination? Whatever it was, it ignited a spark that propelled her to pick up her notes once more. In the cavernous conference room the next day, the atmosphere was dense with a mixture of hesitance and anticipation, much like her own internal state. Gloria stood at the front, a sense of vertigo sweeping over her as she gazed out at the sea of watchful faces, fellow researchers, esteemed faculty, and some who were undoubtedly skeptics. The moment she began to speak, grounding herself with her grandmother's legacy, a new kind of energy coursed through her. She laid out stories, tangible connections generated through trust, healing, and understanding that could not be gleaned through clinical trials alone. While her heart beat an erratic rhythm in her chest, she sensed that the passion behind her words was more palpable than any written statistic. The personal narratives she had collected were the beating heart of her research, the lifeblood flowing through cold, sterile data. Yet as she approached the pivotal part of her argument, anxiety clawed at her throat. She introduced a new section, her preliminary data, to support her qualitative findings. The numbers showed promise, but she worried they wouldn't align with conventional standards. A voice in the back screamed doubt, but she silenced it. Instead, she pressed on, weaving her anecdotes with the numbers, illustrating how they complemented each other rather than contradicted. As questions arose from the audience, Dr. Lane's earlier warning echoed in her mind: frame it within a scientific context. With every inquiry, she felt the weight of scrutiny pressing down, but this time she didn't flinch. Gloria directed the conversation, acknowledging the concerns while grounding her responses with conviction. The turning point came when a particularly rigid professor challenged her methodology head-on. "How can you expect to change current practices with stories? Anecdotes are subjective." The tension in the room was palpable. Others shifted in their seats, anticipation hanging like a thick cloud. Taking a breath, Gloria reframed her answer, acknowledging both the importance of empirical evidence and the role of experiential wisdom. Every number tells a story, but stories can also illuminate the numbers. If we dismiss human experience as irrelevant, we risk losing the essence of what we claim to study: people. When her presentation concluded, the room erupted into a sea of discussion. She could see Dr. Lane nodding, respect replacing intrigue in his expression. Exhaustion washed over Gloria, mingling with an unexpected buzz of exhilaration. Had she navigated the eyes of criticism and found her way to acceptance? As applause dimmed into murmurs, a mix of anticipation and dread tightened within her. Several colleagues approached with curious eyes, perhaps intrigued by her radical approach, or perhaps eager to dissect it further. Yet it was the sudden emergence of Dr. Lane that captivated her attention. "I must admit, Gloria, you've provided a refreshing perspective. But," he hesitated, a glimmer of something she couldn't place flickering across his face, There's still the matter of your research's future. You know a wider audience must be convinced as well. Gloria's heart thrummed at the implication. The road ahead wasn't paved with acceptance, but rather filled with challenges, rivaling her fears of obscurity and inadequacy. Yet she could feel the threads of her resolve tightening, weaving a tapestry of potential through every hesitation and every success. What she hadn't anticipated, however, was the unexpected visitor waiting for her in the wings. Exactly who held the key to whether her work would be judged bravely or critiqued mercilessly? As Dr. Lane continued speaking, Gloria sensed that her journey was far from over. It was, in fact, just beginning. The next task loomed large, veiled in uncertainty, yet fueled by an unwavering determination. But was she ready to face it head-on? The weeks following her presentation unraveled like an intricate tapestry, each thread revealing new challenges and unexpected opportunities. Gloria walked the familiar corridors of the university, but felt fundamentally changed, as if she had unlocked a door to another realm where possibilities echoed louder than doubts. Conversations buzzed around her, yet her mind simmered with urgent thoughts. Could she take the next steps required to elevate her research? Dr. Lane's comment had lingered longer than any of the applause. The weight of needing to convince a wider audience hung heavy on her shoulders. Gloria's ambition stirred restlessly, pushing her to confront what lay ahead, a path riddled with uncertainty, yet filled with promise if she dared to brave it. One afternoon she found herself seated across from a potential collaborator, a clinical psychologist named Dr. Avery, who embodied the confidence Gloria admired, yet secretly envied. Their meeting pushed Gloria into uncharted territory, where professional networking intertwined with stakes higher than she had previously imagined. "Your work on integrating qualitative data with quantitative measures could be groundbreaking," Dr. Avery stated, leaning forward, brow furrowed in concentration. "But you need a larger data set to substantiate your claims. You know that, right?" The question felt like a challenge, and Gloria's heart raced as she recognized the criticism hidden within the praise. "Right," Gloria responded, her voice steady despite her mounting anxiety. "I'm currently working on expanding my research base, reaching out to communities. I think the personal narratives I've gathered can weave deeply into the statistics." Dr. Avery raised an eyebrow, clearly questioning the feasibility of such an approach. "And those communities? Will they trust you?" The pointed inquiry sent a twinge through Gloria. Did she truly believe they would? Instead of retreating, she straightened her posture, summoning the strength that pulsed from her grandmother's legacy. "I plan to be transparent and authentic. I want them to see my work as a partnership rather than an intrusion." Their discussion flowed seamlessly, punctuated by the tension of possibility and the palpable fear of failure. In those moments, Gloria discovered an unexpected confidence growing within her, transforming her self-doubt into determination. She was articulating a vision beyond mere research. She was challenging the very fabric of accepted norms in her field. "That's the spirit," Dr. Avery replied, a hint of encouragement creeping into her tone. "If you want to change the conversation, you need to own your narrative. Combine those stories and numbers. Show them how they interplay with each other." Gloria nodded, invigorated by the prospect, but also acutely aware of what was at stake. This was more than just academic funds and publications. It was about real lives, deep connections, and validation, both professional and personal. Riding the momentum from their discussion, Gloria plunged into her next mission. She crafted outreach letters, pouring heartfelt sincerity into each word. These letters weren't just requests for data. They were invitations to share experiences, to build a coalition for understanding and healing. Surprisingly, the responses flowed in, each email lighting a beacon of hope in what had initially seemed a daunting task. Yet with success came a new concern. How would she manage this newfound responsibility and steer it towards tangible results? As the data began to accumulate, Gloria felt the pressure mounting. The noise of her ambitions clashed with an undercurrent of fear that whispered, what if she couldn't replicate the passion she felt in her presentation? In the depths of her anxiety, an idea crystallized. She could hold community workshops to engage with those she wanted to study firsthand.
At these gatherings, she could share her vision while directly involving others in shaping research that mattered. Opening this line of communication felt pivotal, yet the thought of organizing such events stirred the flames of her doubt once more. Would they really come? Would they believe in her mission?
When she finally sent out the invitations, a part of her questioned if she was setting herself up for embarrassment. What if no one showed? As days turned into weeks, anticipation blended with trepidation, yet Gloria felt a shift within her. This was no longer just about seeking validation from academic scholars. She was ready to face the challenge head-on, to forge connections built on trust and mutual respect. But as the dates for the workshops drew closer, so did an unsettling revelation. It wasn't just her research at stake. She was on the precipice of a deeper understanding that could reshape her entirely. As the first workshop began to take form, a nagging question lingered in her mind. If she stepped fully into this unknown space, could the transformation she sought really emerge in ways she had yet to imagine? The weight of her question pressed against her as she prepared her materials. Challenging the norms meant risking everything, but she knew the heart of her journey was to confront not only the world's skepticism, but also her own fear of inadequacy. Would she have the courage to leap into the abyss and embrace the thrilling chaos and potential of her ambition? With her heart pounding and the murmurs of anticipation swirling around her, Gloria prepared to enter a new chapter of her journey, uncertain of the outcome, but resolute in her purpose. Whatever the outcome, one thing was clear. The time had come to face the heart of her work and all it represented. The workshops became a sanctuary for Gloria, a space where doubt melted away in the warmth of shared stories and collective aspirations. Each session attracted participants in numbers she had only dreamed of, eager to share their experiences. The first gathering felt electric as she watched the diverse group come together, united by the thread of curiosity and healing. This was no longer just a research endeavor. It was a movement that resonated deeply within her, sparking a transformative wave of connection. During these workshops, Gloria facilitated conversations that were authentic, drawing out narratives that illuminated the power of her grandmother's remedies. In a cozy community center laden with the aroma of herbal teas, she stood before her audience, not as a mere cleaning lady, but as an honest seeker of truth. Their stories, interwoven with struggles and triumphs, fed her conviction, deepening her determination to find the intergenerational wisdom that transcended traditional confines. Gloria had learned to harness the stories of those around her, amplifying their voices alongside her own. Each account she heard validated her journey, propelling her evidence forward with every shared laugh, tear, and sigh. The impact of her workshops exceeded her wildest expectations, forging a bond with each participant and transforming her perception of not just her role in this process, but her very identity.
After months of meeting, collecting narratives, and encouraging others to open up, the research finally took shape. The data she compiled was robust, thoroughly detailed, and sensible enough to warrant real scrutiny. She wove these stories into her findings, demonstrating how they could coexist with the hard numbers and evidence derived from conventional science. Yet an unrelenting voice tried to claw back into her mind. What if all of this fell apart? What if the academic world dismissed her again, her hard work rendered irrelevant? The anxiety clenched in her stomach, but she quickly pushed it aside. As she stood at the threshold of her most significant presentation yet, her resolve crystallized. What mattered was not solely her acceptance within academia. It was about standing firm for her community, for Kayla, and for every voice that stood behind her. The day of the unveiling arrived, and Gloria's heart raced. She entered the auditorium, which buzzed with energy and anticipation. Familiar faces from her workshops filled the seats, supporting her in ways that bolstered her courage. Today, she wasn't just presenting, she was telling a powerful story filled with hope, resilience, and innovation. Taking a moment to breathe deeply, she glanced at her notes and then at the audience.
I am here not just to share research, but to echo what we have built together. The coexistence of tradition and modern understanding is not just an abstract idea, it is alive, breathing, and making an impact. With each word, Gloria spoke her truth boldly, her confidence radiating off the stage. She showcased the richness of the narratives gathered from her community, weaving them seamlessly with her rigorous data. Resistance melted away under the weight of authenticity. She could feel it bouncing off the walls of the auditorium. At the end of the presentation, applause erupted, filling the room with a palpable energy that fueled her spirit. As the audience stood in a collective appreciation of her work, Gloria felt the dark shadows of rejection that haunted her fade into the background, replaced by a powerful realization. Her transformation had blossomed into something tangible. She had done it. She had forged a bridge between two worlds. Challenged by questions, Gloria navigated inquiries with newfound eloquence and assurance, her assertive replies resonating deeply with her audience. Colleagues approached her afterward with a mix of admiration and interest in collaborative opportunities. These were the moments she had longed for, the opportunities that validated her hard work and commitment. Amidst this tide of support, Dr. Lane stepped forward, a smile illuminating his face. Gloria, this was exceptional. You've shifted the narrative in ways I could only hope for. I want to ensure these findings reach a broader audience. Let's discuss publishing options.